Hi, and welcome to my shop. Today we're going to be building some drawer boxes for a kitchen cabinet. The drawer boxes I'm making are specifically for the Blum Tandem Drawer slides with Blue Motion. I think these are 563H is the model number on these, and this is the 21-inch drawer slide, and it has the soft close feature. If you have the 15-inch slides, or the 18-inch slides, you can still follow these instructions, but you'll need to adjust the depth of your drawer box to match your drawer slide. Went online to find instructions on building drawer boxes with these slides, but there's not a lot out there, so I decided to put together a video and show you some of the tips and tricks I learned when putting this together. So anyway, this is a face frame style cabinet, and it has drawer boxes you'll build, and then you're going to attach a drawer front to the drawer box, okay? And it'll be mounted like this. So in order to get this drawer front lined up flush and even with your cabinet, you might want a few accessories. This is the Blum Drawer Slide Guide, and this helps mount or drill a hole in the back of the drawer that goes into the slide. So you'll need a 6mm drill bit with a stop collar that kind of goes in this way to drill a hole. Then you're going to need a 2.5mm drill bit with an extension that goes through the jig this way, and that drills a hole for the locking device. And the locking devices I'm using are by Blum. They're their 563 models, the nicest ones I think they made. So they have 3 types of adjustments you can make. So when you mount your drawer front, you can make a side-to-side adjustment, kind of an in and out adjustment to get it flush with your face frame, and it has a horizontal tilt, so if your drawer front's a little crooked, you can make an adjustment with that locking device. And basically you're looking for an evenly spaced drawer front that is flush with your face frame for a nice professional look. Alright, well, let's get started. Okay, here's a closer look at the drawer slides from Blum. These are the 21-inch slides with soft close motion. These are the locking devices that have depth adjustment and side to side. They also do horizontal adjustments. This is the drawer slide guide is what they call it, but it's used to help mount the hardware on the drawer. And then you're going to need a 6mm drill bit with a stop collar and a 2.5mm drill bit with extension. Okay, step 1, you want to measure the width of your drawer opening. So I measure from one edge of the face frame to the other, and Blum's instructions uses millimeters. So I'm going to stick with millimeters in case you're using that guide. So my face frame width is 770 millimeters. Okay, then Blum would like you to subtract 42 millimeters to make room for their drawer slides. So take your total width, subtract 42 millimeters, and then I come up with 728 millimeters. Okay, now you need to measure the width of your drawer sides. In mine, I used 1/2-inch plywood, which comes out to be about 11.5 millimeters. So you multiply that times 2 because there's 2 sides, so that comes up with 23 millimeters. Then I'm going to add that to the 728 figure I came up with earlier. And this is going to give me the total outside dimension of my drawers. Okay, and that comes up to be 751 millimeters for the drawer front width. So if this is the drawer front here, it's 751 millimeters. From side to side. That's the length of your drawer front and back. And then the sides are going to be 20 5/8. And this is because when you do, I'm doing dovetail, half-blind dovetails. And the dovetail is going to add a little bit to the side because it's half-blind. So it adds 3/8 of an inch. So you subtract 3/8 from the 21-inch drawer slide and you'll get 20 5/8. Okay, next you're going to measure the drawer height. The height, how tall your drawer is going to be for the opening you have. Here mine is a little over 5 inches, but Blum wants you to subtract an inch for that. So I'm going to round down to 4 inches for my top drawer. And then my 2 lower drawers are just a little over 8 inches. but I'm going to go ahead and round down again to 7 inches. So once again, subtract 1 inch from your height. Okay, now I'm just putting down my sheet goods in the driveway. I'm using a couple pallets to cut on. I'm going to use a Festool track saw. My plywood I'm using is pre-finished maple plywood, 1/2 inch. Okay, now I'm just making tick marks along the plywood every 7 inches, and I'm going to line my track saw guide up with that, and I'll be able to rip this sheet good into 3 7-inch strips that I'll use for the 2 larger drawers at the bottom, and then I'm going to make marks every 4 inches to line my track up with for the smaller drawer up at the front. Okay, now I'm just bringing the boards back down into the shop, and I'm going to cross cut them into the lengths that I came up with. And I'm going to just measure the boards. I have a metric tape measure I'm using just to get the metric markings. You can convert, but I'm just sticking with the metric. Seems easier. So I make a mark, and then I'm going to go ahead and use my combination square to bring the mark across the board, and then I just cross cut it at the Capex miter saw. Okay, and then a final check, make sure the boards are the same length. Then I'm going to mark the boards. So I'll mark my front and the back, and I even mark the inside parts of the drawer so I don't get those mixed up. Next, you want to line up all your sides and fronts like the drawer box and then label them. I do the corners A, and then I mark the right hand corner B. I come down and make C and D. These will join together when you make your dovetails. It makes the dovetailing process easier. Okay, now I'm just going to put in some scrap boards into the dovetail jig just to set the jig up and make sure all the settings are correct. You don't want to do this on your final pieces in case you have a problem. Then you have to recut those pieces. So just use some scraps. I cut scraps that are the same width of the ones I'm using. So when I set up the jig, it's going to be just like the real thing. I'm using the basic Porter cable jig for this. It's just easy to set up for half-blind dovetails, and you can cut the tails and pins at the same time. I just find it a lot easier than using my lay jig, which is more of a complicated setup. Okay, just finished the test cut. Now I'm going to put them together just to make sure that the dovetails fit together nice and tight. You don't want it too loose or too tight. Too tight, you could break your wood, splinter it, or if it's too loose, it's not going to glue up very well. Just follow the directions on your dovetail jig to make adjustments. Okay, now we're ready to cut the actual boards. Take the A front, place it towards the front of the jig. I kind of lightly clap it down. And then take the A side with the A facing towards you and push that in the front of your jig, snug up underneath the guide rail there. Okay, I lock it down, and then I move up the A front so it's butt up against there and lock it down. So both of the A's are facing up. I can see both of them. Okay, so we have A and A. Then with this jig, I can route them both, the tails and pins at the same time. So here's that process. Okay, now just carry on with the procedure. Take out the A side. I flip it around so it says B and place that on the top again. Then I take the side board that has B on it and I place that in the front of the jig. I make sure that both of the B's are facing me, that I can see them. I'll make sure that's flush against the guide rail. Make sure the top is butt up against that board. Tighten it down, and then just repeat the process. You do this for all sections. So then you put the C in the top, and then the C side in the front. And then when you finish that, flip it around and do the D on the top, and then the D side on the back. When I used the smaller drawer parts for the upper drawer, I had to reset the my jig. So basically their instructions are to have the board centered between two of the fingers. Then you loosen this guide plate over here with the wrench they provide and slide it over up against that top board and tighten it back down. And that provides the proper spacing for the half-blind dovetails. They should be offset. Okay, and this is just the final fitting of the smaller drawer. Everything worked out pretty good. So we're ready to move on to the next step. Okay, once you have all your boards cut, I organize them into piles so I don't get the parts mixed up. So I have a pile of one drawer and a pile of another, and then my third pile for the top drawer. Then you lay them back out how you started, with the A's together and the B's and the C's and D's. Then here I'm going to mark where I'm going to put dados for the drawer bottom. Okay, so here's my A. That's my drawer front. And that looked like my B side. And that's the drawer back. So the two A's are together here. Then I'm going to mark the inside of the drawer with a little pencil line, a witness mark, just to show me where to cut the dado. So I'm doing that on all the boards so I don't put the dados on the wrong place. Okay, and I'll do that with my next set of boards. So again, okay, and then here I'm just kind of dry fitting it a little bit just to make sure I have my pencil marks in the correct spots. So the pencil mark should be on the bottom, inside bottom of the drawers. Okay, the Blum drawer slides need a ½ inch space at the bottom of the drawer so the runners can fit up underneath the drawer. They're a concealed runner, so that means they're going to be under the drawer. So you need a ½ inch space between the bottom of the drawer side and then the actual drawer bottom. So to do that, I set a dado blade in there, the width of my drawer bottom, which is a ¼ inch. Then I move the fence away so it's a ½ inch from the blade. I'm going to lock that down, run a test sample. So I'm going to get a scrap here. Okay, just double checking the height of the dado. You don't want to go all the way through the board. That would be bad. You just want to do maybe half the thickness of the board, so a ¼ inch. Okay, running the dado. Then I'll get my combination square, set it to 1/2 inch, and then just measure from the bottom up to the bottom of the dado. Looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and run all my drawer parts through the table saw with the dado blade set in there. Now making sure that the line is the part that goes through the blade. So here's that line. It faces the table, faces down, and then you run it over the blade. And make sure the line is up against the fence for each one. Okay, when those are all cut, you need to take the backs of your drawers. And for mine, if you labeled like me, it's going to be the C's and D's. Then measure over 1 3/4 inches from the edge of the board underneath the dado, and that needs to be a notch. And that notch will accept the drawer runners. So I mark those. And here I'm going to mark the waist side so you can see which part is removed, that little block on the end. Okay, now it's over to the bandsaw to cut out those notches. Okay, now I've dry fitted one of the drawer boxes, and you need to measure for the drawer bottom. You need to cut a piece of plywood for the drawer bottom. So a little tip is to use your combination square and then set that inside the dado and let that come up against the side of the drawer, and then that'll give you the depth of the dado. And then I mark each side with a pencil, and then I use a steel ruler to measure in between the two marks. I usually subtract a 1/16 of an inch just to allow a little room for movement. Now I use the table saw to cut the bottom panels. Just cut your panels to fit the dimensions of the drawer boxes you built. Okay, now it's time for some glue up. Glue your sides together. Make sure you match the letters A to A, B to B, C to C, and D to D. I glue the front, the back with one of the sides. Then I slide in the drawer bottom. Then I add the last side in. Just because the way dovetails go together, it's easier to put them together in this way. Now I'm just putting a dab of glue in one of the dados for the drawer bottom. Now you can put in the drawer bottom. It should slide right in the dado grooves. Now I'm just doing the final glue up of the other side of the drawer box. I didn't really use clamps when I was finished because the dovetails are tight and they keep the drawer square, with the bottom square too. It pulls everything together square. So clamps really weren't necessary. Okay, now we're going to start installing the locking devices on the bottom of the drawers. This is the back of the drawer. The jig has a little gauge there to help you set your lock or stop collar. Then the jig goes on the back of the drawer up against the edge, and then you drill that 6mm hole. You do both sides. And those holes are going to receive the drawer slides, which are located in the cabinet. The slides sort of lock into those holes. Okay, next we're going to use the same jig to pre-drill holes for the locking devices themselves. So you need your 2.5mm drill bit with the extension, and use the 2 outermost holes to drill. I had a little trouble with the bit coming out of the drill. But the 2 outermost holes line up with the locking devices. Then the locking device, make sure you use the correct one. The little tab adjusting screw should be on the right, and the orange device should be on the left. Use a hand screwdriver to do this because they're plastic, and if you used a drill gun or a power screwdriver you could probably crack the plastic. So I just hand tighten gently with a hand screwdriver. So there's the right one in. Drilling the 2 outermost holes again. Then putting the left locking device on. Once again using the hand screwdriver. Alright guys, well here is our finished project, our kitchen cabinet with the drawer all assembled. We have the drawer box with the drawer front screwed to it, and soft close feature. Closes nice, got nice even space around the drawer front, and it's flush with the face frame. So good luck with your project, and leave me any comments if you have questions, and until next time, thanks for watching.